This man, this animal, this piece of shit, this bastard took the lives of 17 people. 17 medical examiners testified about what your bullets did to our children's bodies. And you sat there with the same freaking expression you have now. None.
Your act of terrorism resulted in the murder of 51 people. Most of your victims were at prayer. You violated places of worship where people came together for peace and fellowship. On the charge of committing a terrorist act, you were sentenced to life imprisonment.
Death to the enemies of America. You call it terrorism, I call it patriotism. You hear me? Die.
At least 40 people are dead and over 100 injured after a heavily armed gunman burst into a packed theater near Moscow and opened fire.
On March 22, 2024, 4 gunmen associated with Islamic State, Khorasan province, coordinated a terror attack against civilians at the Crocus City Hall music venue in Moscow, Russia. Shamsuddin Fariduni, along with his 3 co-conspirators, Delerjan Mirzoyev, Said Akrami Rakhabalizoda, and Mohammad Sobir Feyzov, snuck into an active concert venue in Moscow with a nefarious plan. Once the hall was full of people, the conspirators, all members of ISIS, opened fire. The concert-goers were horrified. Those who were still outside fled to safety, but with gunmen at the entrance and exits, anyone already inside the building was trapped. Hundreds of people sat in their seats, wondering why the concert was delayed. They quickly realized the truth. Gunmen arrived inside the atrium and fired into the trapped crowd. And if that wasn't bad enough, the terrorists then set fire to the building. Now
They put him in the chair and strapped him down, and the whole room watched him just stare blankly at the ceiling while they read out the names of the people he slaughtered. Not a flinch, not a single tear. You know, just like I know, that this is the look of someone who was completely certain he was on a mission from a higher power. And that's a terrifying thing to witness when the mask finally slips. We've seen the files on these monsters, the ones the elite media uses to divide us. And we've seen that same emptiness in their eyes right before they realize the cage door is shutting forever. But sometimes, the cage door opens a crack, and what comes out of the darkness is the last thing you'd expect. It's the truth they don't want you to know, and it often comes from the mouth of a man the system already threw away. Take Joseph Franklin, a name the mainstream buried because his story was too dangerous. They labeled him a monster, and he was. But in his final hours, this condemned man started talking about the demonic ritualistic programming he saw running through the underground networks of power. He wasn't crying for his victims. He was exposing the infection. He was a blackballed legend in the worst possible circles. But sitting there, waiting for the needle, he became an unlikely silenced hero by admitting that the violence was never just about hate. It was about control. And he was a puppet whose strings were cut the moment he was arrested, leaving him to finally see who.
This red car entered the parade. At first, parade goers thought it was part of the festivities, but they soon realized the horrible truth. Wow! The car rammed into onlookers, instantly killing and injuring dozens of people. But the driver was only getting started. Once free of the crowd, the red car sped away. Meanwhile, onlookers and emergency personnel rushed to help the wounded. That night, 6 people were killed, including a senior citizen and an 8-year-old boy. More than 60 other people were injured, including 17 children. Police combed the streets for the killer, but the red car was nowhere to be found. Half an hour later, Darrell Brooks knocked on the door of a stranger's house asking for help.
Hey, I'll call an Uber, and I'm supposed to be waiting for it over here, but I don't know when it's coming. Can you call it for me, please?
This good Samaritan let Brooks use his phone to call an Uber home. He had no idea Brooks was the killer. The police did.
Hands up! Put your hands where I can see them!
Whoa!
Hands up! Hands up!
They arrested him on the spot and charged him with more than 70 felony counts.
Hey, do you know this guy? Absolutely not. Okay.
During the interrogation, Brooks played dumb.
I don't own a vehicle.
Don't own a vehicle?
Nope.
Do you have any car you can drive at all?
No.
He said he got into a fight with his baby mama, who dropped him off on the side of the road with no phone and no jacket. That's why he was at the neighbor's house, trying to call an Uber home. But the detectives didn't fall for it.
You understand what I'm saying? Start over. Because you're not giving us an accurate story. You didn't ride out with Marcus.
When they revealed the true extent of the...
We saw the same pattern with Dylann Roof, who walked into that historic church in Charleston, sat with those praying people for an hour, and then calmly pulled the trigger. The official story is a simple, isolated racist, but you and I know it's never that simple when you look at the psychological operations at play. They found a heavily medicated, socially isolated kid and fed him a steady diet of extremist propaganda until he snapped. Yet we never saw the FBI fully investigate the online handlers who radicalized him in the months leading up to the shooting. During his sentencing, he offered no defense and called himself a white supremacist with the monotone voice of a robot reciting a script, while the prosecutors curiously avoided digging deeper into who funded the forums and the encrypted chat rooms that weaponized him. It feels exactly like the Brenton Tarrant case in New Zealand, where the live-streamed massacre was perfectly framed to terrify the globe, yet the deep state investigators refused to follow the money trail that connected these so-called lone wolves to a larger global destabilization effort designed to make you afraid of your neighbor.
I was forced to do the worst possible thing a parent could do. I was forced to say goodbye to my medicine.
This is the moment the judge released the couple's sentence.
With regard to Jennifer Crumley, it is the sentence of this court, Ms. Crumley, that you serve 10 to 15 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections. As to defendant James Crumley, it is the sentence of this court that you serve 10 to 15 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections.
If Crumley's parents had gotten him a therapist instead of a pistol, maybe the attack would never have happened. But in this next case, will police catch a budding terrorist before it's too late? This is Laith Shahzad, who's charged with terrorism and conspiracy to commit murder in Harris County, Texas. According to reports, Shahzad was in communication with a known terrorist in Australia through Facebook Messenger, asking him for guidance on how to become a martyr and how to carry out a terrorist attack. Facebook alerted the FBI, who intercepted Shahzad at his house in August of 2024. At his house, police found photos of himself with guns, and in addition, they uncovered a journal filled with extremist propaganda and clear intent to commit an act of terrorism. In court, Shahzad's lawyer said it was all a mistake.
Kids do stupid stuff all the time. I don't know enough of the facts right now to be able to say whether or not their beliefs are justified or not, if even what they said is true.
But that wasn't the first time Shahzad was in trouble with the law. Police already had him under supervision after he made homemade explosives in the past. Under the new terrorism law passed in Texas in 2023, Shahzad's attempted murder charge has been elevated to an act of terrorism. But in court, Shahzad didn't appear nervous. In fact, he even cracked a smile for the cameras. Despite his bravado, Shahzad was found guilty by the jury. His final sentence has yet to be released, but he faces a minimum of 15 years. Thankfully, Shahzad was stopped before he could take any lives. But what happens when a white supremacist decides to reenact the New Zealand Christchurch shootings on American soil? like in the case of John Timothy Ernest, who's facing more than 100 federal hate crime charges in Poway, California. In 2019, 19-year-old John Timothy Ernest targeted this synagogue in Poway, California. Armed with a semi-automatic rifle, Ernest sprinted into the synagogue's entryway. Inside the entryway was 60-year-old Lori Gilbert Kay and Rabbi Goldstein. At the sound of gunshots, the crowd hid behind pews and tried to escape the bullets. Ernest planned to slaughter the entire congregation, but two men stood in his way. First, military veteran Oscar.
Then we get to the pure, concentrated evil of the Crocus City Hall attack in Moscow, where 4 gunmen turned a concert into a fire trap, killing over 160 souls. These men were captured alive, and when they appeared in court, their faces were so smashed and swollen that one of them had his eyeball hanging out of the socket, and another was so drugged he collapsed in the glass cage. We all knew this was coming. Real justice isn't about a state-appointed lawyer reading a statement. It's about the primal scream of a father who lost his child. You could see the sheer terror in their bruised faces when they realized there would be no martyr's welcome, only the boot of a soldier smashing their head into the floor until they confessed to the names of the elites who paid for their plane tickets. That's the kind of swift justice that makes the Hollywood elite squirm, because they know that if the normal people ever got their hands on the client list, the consequences would be biblical. This brings us to the moment it all clicks, the everything makes sense now payoff that ties the broken pieces of these horrific events together. When you look at a case like the Waukesha Christmas parade attack, where Darrell Brooks drove an SUV through a crowd of marching bands and dancing grandmothers, the official narrative was just another disjointed tragedy.
Earned his new verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Naveed Haq, guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree.
Haq showed no reaction to the sentence, but the surviving victims couldn't contain their joy. This time, Naveed Haq was sentenced to life without parole, plus 120 years. Haq claimed he killed in order to end the war in the Middle East. But what sort of person would kill over something as simple as loud music? Like in the case of Michael Dunn, who's charged with 3 counts of attempted murder in Jacksonville, Florida. On Black Friday in 2012, 17-year-old Jordan Davis went to the mall with his friends. Afterwards, they stopped at a gas station so the driver could buy cigarettes. While the driver was inside, Davis and his other 2 friends turned up the music. But Michael Dunn, the man in the car next to them, had a problem with that.
Body panels of the SUV were rattling. My rear view mirror was shaking. My eardrums were vibrating. I mean, this was ridiculously loud music.
Dunn and his fiancée were in town to attend a wedding. In court later, Dunn's fiancée recalls the chilling words Dunn spoke to her as he got out of the car.
And what did the defendant say?
Oh, I hate that thug music.
But Dunn called her a liar.
You don't recall saying, "I hate that thug music"?
No, if I would have said anything, I would have called it rap crap. Thug music isn't a term I would use.
Whatever his phrasing, the fiancée went inside the store to purchase a bottle of wine. Little did she know, her life was about to change forever. Dunn exited his vehicle and approached the car full of teenagers.
I said, "Can you turn that down, please?" They turned it off. And if the music wasn't off, at least the bass stopped completely.
Okay. And at that point, what did you then say?
I said, "Thank you."
But the niceties didn't last long. Out of the corner of his eye, Dunn saw 17-year-old Davis cursing him out in the back seat.
I should kill that I should kill that Now he's screaming.
Okay.
There's no mistake of what he said. That is what he said.
Even Davis's friends corroborate Dunn's statement.
Isn't it true that Jordan Davis said to you, that turn it back up?
Yes, sir.
But Dunn claims things escalated beyond just words in a matter of seconds.
"I'm gonna kill you." I look and I'm looking at a barrel. He's showing me a gun and he's threatening me. But after he opened the door, then he looked at me and said, "You're dead."
At that point, what did you believe was about to happen to you?
I thought I was gonna be killed.
The gunshots echoed across the parking lot, but it wasn't Davis who fired, it was Dunn.
I'm looking out the window and I said, "You're not gonna kill me, you son of a bitch," and I shot. It wasn't just my life I was worried about, no.
He claims he was protecting himself and his fiancée, and he doesn't regret a single second.
I was still fighting for my life. I knew I had done nothing wrong. I have every right of self-defense, and I took it.
We see the parents of the Oxford High School victims staring down Ethan Crumbley's mother and father, who bought their mentally disturbed son a pistol instead of getting him an exorcism or a padded cell.
Similarly, the perpetrator in our next case had so much remorse, it sent him into a psychological breakdown. This is Ethan Crumbley, who's facing 24 charges, including murder and terrorism in Oxford Township, Michigan.
What is your name?
Ethan Robert Crumbley.
And Mr. Crumbley, how old are you?
I'm 16 years old.
High school freshman Ethan Crumbley received a very unusual gift for his 15th birthday. His father purchased him a semi-automatic handgun. Surveillance video catches him at the shooting range for some birthday target practice. Little did his parents know that gift would ruin lives. In November of 2021, Ethan Crumbley entered his school bathroom. What happens next is caught on surveillance footage, but due to the graphic nature, the courts refused to release it. Instead, a detective describes the footage he saw.
The shooter come out of the bathroom, and I've watched the video so many times. He had a sense about him, like, I don't know, I call it like the proud chest. Like he walked out of there like his head was held high, like he was in charge.
The minute Crumbley exited the bathroom, he started shooting.
He steps out, and he immediately, there's Phoebe and her boyfriend Elijah, and he immediately levels the gun at them and then shoots them. And you see Elijah's hair from the blast of the bullet. Like his hair he's got real curly hair, and his hair just poofs up.
The halls were full during the passing period, but after the first gunshots, the students quickly started running.
There's Hannah and Kylie and Riley on the right side of the hallway. And he immediately turns the gun at them and fires some rounds in their direction.
Kylie herself recounts what it was like that day, right as the shooting began.
Me and my dear friend Riley Franz and I were standing in the hallway, socializing with our peers. And all of a sudden, I thought a balloon popped. I turned and I fell right to the ground. I remember hearing screams. I saw running, but I couldn't run. I was already down. I was laying on my side like this. And I realized what had just happened. I was just shot, and I thought I was going to die.
At this point, most students had escaped into classrooms, and a lockdown procedure was initiated. But some teens were trapped in the hallway.
He sprints down the hallway. He puts the gun down, and you see, as he turns to walk away, her body just slumps to the ground.
For many antagonizing minutes, students stayed hidden in the corners of their classrooms. And then... But something was wrong. According to the lockdown procedure, students and teachers are trained never to open the door, just in case the shooter is there, holding the speaker at gunpoint.
Yeah, we're here.
Instead of knocking, a sheriff should have retrieved a universal key from the principal's office and opened the door himself.
We're not willing to take that risk right now.
The Crumbleys cried in court, but not for the dead children. They cried because their own freedom was being stolen.
Stop it, girl. Why do you stop it? Stop it, girl. Why do you stop it?
EMTs had to completely restrain him for their own safety. The EMTs were shocked at his behavior.
We witnessed a child in the throes of psychosis.
It took hours, but Crumbley eventually calmed down. That's when police ushered in his parents so they could be present during the questioning. But Crumbley's father had other ideas.
I have so many questions right now. Okay, come back up.
first time Crumbly had shown emotion, and it was for his cat, Dexter. At that, his parents lost it.
Why? I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you.
During the investigation, police discovered that Ethan Crumbly wasn't the only one responsible for this massacre. Over the past few months, he had repeatedly alerted his parents to his mental and emotional distress. But instead of helping him, the parents bought him a gun. When the police arrived at their residence with an arrest warrant, they were nowhere to be found. They had gone on the run, but not far enough. After just a few days of searching, the Crumbly parents were found sleeping inside of a friend's art studio. With them, they had $4,000 in cash. Both parents were arrested and charged with involuntary manslaughter for irresponsibly giving Crumbly access to a weapon. In court, Crumbly seemed to be genuinely remorseful for his actions.
I am a really bad person. I have done terrible things that no one should ever do. All I want is for the people I hurt to just have a final sense of culpability that justice has somewhat been served in any capacity that they can recognize it with. Any sentence that they ask for, I ask that you do impose it on me, because I want them to be happy and I want them to feel secure and safe, and I do not want them to worry another day, because I really am sorry for what I've done, for what I've taken of them.
He pled guilty to all charges, sparing his victims' families from a trial.
Is it true that your actions on November the 30th, 2000?
This is the inversion of morality that defines the end of days. Justice was served in those life sentences, but the rage still burns hot because the architects of this carnage are still sitting in their think tanks and media rooms, praising the killers as products of a broken society. I want to ask you directly, because the comments section is the only place left where the truth isn't censored. When you look into the dead, empty eyes of these convicted killers, do you believe they were just random madmen? Or do you see the hollowed-out shells of a larger, demonic strategy designed to destroy our faith and our children? Tell me what you see.